Back again for potentially the last year is the Ford Edge. This one is the titanium with the titanium elite package in carbonized gray. I say potentially the last year because we're still not sure whether or not Ford's going to discontinue it after 2024 or not. It's still not officially announced as of yet, but we'll touch on that in just a minute. Now, you can find a build link for this specific one down in the description of the video with links off to Ford.com and .ca's website. You'll also find tech walkthroughs, like if you want to know how to use the steering wheel buttons, the instrument cluster, move through the Sync 4 screen, use park assist, things like that. Those are all down in the description. But let's unpack this thing because the Edge might be in its last year, but it's still got a lot of possibilities, especially when you look at some of the higher trims of the vehicle. Now, as I mentioned, this one is the titanium with the titanium elite package. So you're looking at unique 20-inch wheels. There is the option for different wheel sizes and styles depending on which trim level of the vehicle that you're in and which package you've added on. I personally love the blacked out wheels you'll find inside of the ST, but that's a matter of preference. These things have a little black cap in the middle. I just think it would look really sharp with this style if it was like maybe hydro dipped for like a carbon fiber or like a pure black. It'd look pretty neat. But one thing about the Edge that happened a couple years ago, you're no longer going to find it front wheel drive. So it's strictly got Ford's intelligent all-wheel drive. And what that means is that the vehicle is automatically going to determine which wheel on which axle needs which amount of power and then divert it as necessary. So that is useful. This thing has a dedicated sport mode, and then it's also got paddle shifters, which is even better. There are going to be different style body moldings and rockers and bumpers depending on which packages you've added on. Because of all the packages this one has, it's pretty much body color everything. Side view mirror caps are body colored, right along the bottom part of the rocker, all body colored, and then even shooting into the front bumper, that's also body colored. There's different technology you're going to find inside of the Edge depending on the trim level of the vehicle that you're in. Some things that are standard though, LED headlamps are always going to be there. There's the option for fogs, and then the forward sensing system, along with the front-facing camera. So the front-facing camera is great. It's not a full 360 camera like you're going to find in some other Ford vehicles. It's a 180 split. So you'll either have that front-facing view or a backup view, but the forward sensing system and the reverse sensing system work in tandem. So if you're backing up, if you're pulling into spots, getting closer to obstacles, it will help you out from that perspective by beeping. And this thing also has park assist, so it can help out with parallel and perpendicular parking. But that park assist system is trim level specific. Now, some other things, you've got a nice kind of like wavy grille in the front end. And then this thing also has, along the very bottom, a little plug there. And that's going to be for winter time in case things get a little bit chilly and you need to use the engine block heater. That is available. Getting underneath the hood of this thing is straightforward. So, just on the inside, see there's a little release. Just gonna pull and go for a walk. So, just above the Ford badge there. I love that little camera. Solid squirrel. But you're going to lift up and you can see there's a tiny little yellow release there. So you're going to go off to the left side and lift up. And this thing is on hydraulics. You know, the Edge technically has two different engine choices that are available. So it's either going to be this 2-liter turbocharged engine or there's a 2.7-liter turbo instead. This 2-liter pushes at 250 horsepower and 280 pound-feet of torque, versus the 2.7, which is only available in the Edge ST, is going to push out 335 horsepower and 380 pound-feet of torque. It's like a little bit of a difference, but if you want power, the ST, definitely the way to go, but this thing is still pretty respectable. You can easily top up fluids if you want to, check change oil, easy access to the battery. And I do just recommend, make sure you're at least maintaining and like regularly changing your oil, but just maintain your vehicle so that you get the best possible life out of your ride. Filling up fuel inside of the Edge is straightforward, and it's just along the driver's side. I'm just going to push to open, and it's a capless system, but it's got anti-siphon technology built in. Minimum manufacturer's recommendation is just regular 87 fuel. So you can use a 91 or a 93, like if you want the best possible performance, like the horsepower and torque specs that we were looking at under the hood, they're all achieved using a 93 octane. So if you want the best possible performance, use a 91 or a 93, but the minimum manufacturer's recommendation is just regular 87. So you don't need to use premium if you don't want to. Towards the back end of the Edge, you've got these nice tail lamps, Edge badge, as well as the rear wiper, and then backup camera. So those are always going to be standard. Titanium badge along the side. The badge that you get is going to depend on the model of the vehicle that you're in. And you've only got all-wheel drive inside of the edge, so the all-wheel drive badge. Reverse sensing system is going to be standard in most trim levels of the vehicle. And then this thing also has dual tip exhaust. And then this one also has the optional towing package from the factory. So you've got your receiver there. Doesn't matter if you're in the 2 liter or the 2.7, max towing capacity inside of the Edge is going to be 3,500 pounds, which is pretty respectable. Now, there are a few different ways that you can get into the trunk of the vehicle. So you could insert fingers there and then push in order to lift up. You've also got the flexibility of using the key fob if you want to. So the fob itself, you've got unlock, lock, remote start, trunk release, horn or panic, and then there's also the emergency access key down there. So you're just going to push and open if you want to get the key. That's going to be good to open up the door in case the fob's died, if you want to lock the glove box and things like that. So you could push twice there if you wanted to open up the liftgate. But some versions of the Edge, foot activated power, so you can kick to open, which is great. Now, having said that, in the winter time, in snowy conditions, icy conditions, etc., the sensors may be blocked up. So you're probably going to end up having to use the key fob or one of the other buttons as an option instead. So just knowing if you're like northern states, Canada, whatever the case may be, chances are good that might not work in the winter time. And you want to kick just to the left or the right-hand side of the center. Because this is the titanium, you can see there's a little woofer off to the right-hand side, a little light, and a tiny little bit of storage. There would be the option for a cargo shade. So it's a spring-loaded shade that you could install and then easily slide back if you want to protect cargo. A tiny little bit of storage there. And then there's also a 12-volt power point, and then releases for the second row seats, which we'll touch on in just a second. There's this thing, just the regular carpeted liner, but lifting up. It's got a spigot, and that's going to be for filling up using a jerry can. It's a nice amount of storage space along the left and the right-hand side. And then the mini spare tire. So that tire is going to be standard inside of the Ford Edge. Underneath the spare tire, you are going to find the jack stand, but one nice thing about being a Ford owner is that you have access to Ford Roadside Assistance. So that's good for the powertrain warranty of the vehicle. So when you purchase your vehicle when it hits the road, you're essentially looking at 5-year, 60,000 mile or 100,000 kilometers for Ford Roadside Assistance. Think of it like AAA in the States or CAA up in Canada. So it's essentially tied to the vehicle, not to the driver. Which means that if you ever have a flat tire, you run out of gas, you need a battery boost, winching, whatever the case may be, that is available to you as an owner. The buttons along the side there. So you've got 2 individual ones for the left and for the right side. So you could push, and that's going to lower the second row seat beautifully. And you can do that for the left or the right-hand side. Now you can also fold down the second row seats from the second row. So, assuming that you don't need to get to the cargo area, all you're going to do, there's a little lever just to the left-hand side, so you're just going to pull that. When you do, it just opens things up. And the cargo measurements that I'm using are essentially from the very back, from where the door would shut, just in behind the armrest. Taking a peek along the driver's side door. So side view mirrors do feature turn signals there. Blind spot monitoring system. So if somebody's into the blind spot on either side of the vehicle, that's going to highlight orange to let you know. These things are manual folding. On the outside, no longer have the 5-digit number in order to be able to get into the vehicle without the fob. You could push there to lock the doors, slide your hand in order to be able to open. This is nice. Now this interior is exclusive when you get the Titanium Elite package. Otherwise, there are 2 different other interiors that are available, but I love this like diamond weave texture in the seat. Looks solid. But along the door, so you've got this like 2-tone along the door as well. Nice metallic highlights, unlock and lock buttons with your seat memory there as well. This thing has the upgraded Bang & Olufsen sound system because it's the titanium version of the Edge. And look at that, nice contrasting stitching. Looks good, follows throughout the seats. Then, typical styling, you've got your side view mirror control, basic window control, and a little bit of door storage. With this nice little Edge scuff plate. These are the thermoplastic rubber trays that you're going to find for the Edge, and then you've also got just the regular carpeted mats there as well. Up to the top, turn your fog lamps on or off, figure out what's going on with your running lamps. As always, I just recommend keeping it in the auto mode. You can increase or decrease the brightness of the cluster screen as well. This is a button for the trunk, so you can open and close, and then there's also turn off the traction control system if you want to. The seats inside of the Edge, for the most part, are going to be power. Whether it's power or manual, going to depend on the trim level of the vehicle that you're in. This is the titanium, which is why it's full power there. So you can go forwards, backwards, up and down. You can adjust your backrest that way. And then there's also two-way lumbar support on top of that. This is nice. The seat comfort inside of the Edge is something I've always really, really liked. At least I'm a little bit wider shouldered, so I mean, sitting in this seat, really nice and comfortable. With the seat, hold on, let's go as far down and as far back as it's gonna go. With the sunroof, I've got about 3.5, almost 4 inches of head space inside of this thing, which is pretty respectable. You're gonna find a few different types of seating material inside of the Edge, with the titanium only featuring the ActiveX seating material. So it's either going to be cloth seats, ActiveX seating material, which is a synthetic leather, or there's going to be a true leather seat. So it's going to be trim level specific. But I mean, even with this thing being synthetic leather, I still think the seat's really comfortable. It's good. It's only a two-way adjustable headrest, so you can only go up and down with it. There's no clicking, so forwards, backwards at all. Beautiful. Nice startup, nice and simple. And this is the steering wheel that you're going to find inside of the Ford Edge. So, option for the heated steering wheel, you can turn it on just inside of the multimedia screen there if you wanted to. Nice and simple. But we've got a few different pads to control what's going on with the cluster screen. So this pad is going to control the left screen. This pad is going to control the screen on the right-hand side. But if you want a full walkthrough, like you want to know how to use the different steering wheel buttons, use the adaptive cruise system, you can find that walkthrough down in the description of the video. A couple things to point out that are important though. So you've got your just base adaptive cruise system, so you can toggle it on. This is a distance indicator, so how close or far are you away from the vehicle that's in front of you. And then there's a lane centering system, which keeps you perfectly balanced in your lane as you go. But you do need to have your hands on the steering wheel in order for it to work, because it's not full self-driving. It's not Ford's Blue Cruise system. So very straightforward there. On the right side, you can increase, decrease volume if you want to. And then the other big one is a voice command prompt. This thing does have paddle shifters. Not going to be available across the entire Edge lineup, but you will find it in a number of Edge vehicles. Stick on the left side is for your blinkers. There's a button on the tip of that stick to turn your lane keeping system on or off. So lane keeping and lane centering are very different systems. So this one is going to nudge you back into your lane or give you a steering wheel shake if you start to veer over into a lane without signaling. Versus this one, as I said, it's going to keep you nice and balanced in your lane as you go. On the right side, it's going to be for your front wipers, and then there's a button on the tip of that stick for your rear windshield wiper as well. It's good. Now the steering wheel inside of the Edge might be power or might be manual. So this is obviously a power telescoping steering wheel. One nice thing is that when you've got the power telescoping, you can essentially set up your steering wheel the way that you'd like. You're going to set up your driver's seat the way that you'd like, side view mirror the way that you'd like, and then you're going to press and hold either 1, 2, or 3 in order for it to remember your own personal profile. It's not available across the entire Edge lineup, but you are going to find it in some of the higher packaged titanium or ST models of the vehicle. It's good. Nice visibility along the dash. You can see there, speaker up top, a little removable tray as well. The question of whether you look at the vehicle as an option for your next vehicle is an interesting talking point. Because if you look at Ford vehicles that are 5, 10 years old that have already been discontinued, like the Focus, there's still part availability. So I don't think that you're going to have to worry about part availability being an issue when you look at the Edge. So if you're contemplating the Edge and you're going to be a long-term holder of the vehicle, like 10 years, like 7 to 10 years, I think it would be a good buy. If you're the type of person where you're going to lease an Edge instead, same thing. It would still be a good option because you're going to lease for 2, 3, or 4 years. And then at the end of the lease, you could buy it if you want to, or you could just get rid of it. The only thing I would say is that if you're kind of like on the fence of whether you're going to hang on to it long term, like if you really only buy your vehicles and hang on to them for like 3 years, if Ford discontinues the Edge, it might affect your resale value in the short term. So that's something to think about. But like I said, if you're going to hang on to the vehicle for like 7, 10 plus years, I don't think you're going to have an issue with part availability whatsoever. You could look at the new Ford Escape as an option instead, or you could bump yourself up if you were looking at something like the Explorer, which is going to give you a little bit more space, some different engine choices and things like that. So there are different options that are available. You're going to be push button start across the entire vehicle lineup, and then you've got the Sync 4A media screen. So the Sync 4A screen, slight change from the 23 to the 24 model, and that this one doesn't have the built-in navigation anymore. It's strictly the connected, which means that after the connected services are up, the map essentially reverts to like a moving map instead, where you can't actually, you can see it here, you can't actually type in any destination unless you have the services activated. So you could still connect through either Android or iPhone devices to use Google Maps, Apple Maps, or Waze, but this one you no longer have the option for the full built-in instead, unfortunately. Boo! But the factory navigation, very responsive here, and you do have the option of continuing on with the paid services if you want them. You can see there as you kind of like navigate through, so feature requires activation. So you need to log in through your Ford Pass app on your phone in order to set it up. But very straightforward. You've got factory navigation, media, so you can use, media is good. So there are tons of different options. You've got the option for AM, FM, Sirius XM. Oh, why is it going to, I guess it would help if I went radio, haha. So yeah, AM, FM, Sirius XM. If you had a phone hooked up, you can stream audio over Bluetooth, or you can connect through Android Auto or Apple CarPlay to stream music that way. And then if you have a USB stick with MP3s on it, you could also use that as an available option. The audio inside of this thing is going to be either a 6-speaker system standard in the lower trims with the 12-speaker Bang & Olufsen sound system in the higher options. And the sound system is really, really good. But regardless of which sound system you use, I always just recommend going to your sound settings and dropping the treble down by like 2 points and cranking the bass by 3. It gives really good audio. Well, let's listen to this. So I'm just essentially just right from the microphone, this is how it sounds. Gonna go from 0 to halfway. A little bit under half if I need to, but the audio inside of this is really good.
Everybody just do your thing. Wake up, today's gonna be a good day. Wake up, today's gonna be a good day. Wake up, today's gonna be
Okay, so that was with the bass cranked a little bit and the treble down, and I wasn't even at half volume. The audio inside of this 12-speaker system is unbelievable. So if you're looking for good audio, you definitely want to go for the Titanium or the ST so you can get the 12-speaker. But so many different options available on the screen. There's a fully digital owner's manual, series of different games that are available. But one thing to note about the games is that you have to be parked in order to be able to use them. Because the second that you put yourself into drive, it essentially saying that it's been disabled until you park again, and then you can use the games again. Moving back, you've got a little sketch pad and then a series of different assistant settings and things like that. But the big one here is really going to be in your sound settings. So I normally recommend dropping the bass by a few points, or the treble by a few points, sorry, and then you're going to crank the bass by a few points. So treble down like 2, bass up by like 3 or 4, generally gives really good audio inside of this thing. But if you want a full walkthrough, like you want to know how to use all the different buttons here, navigate through the screen, if you want to know how to set up Android Auto, Apple CarPlay, you'll find that walkthrough down in the description of this video. Moving down, volume rocker, there's a tuning rocker, and then a series of other buttons. So 4-way blinkers, max defroster, and then button 4, 180 camera. So you've got your front view, 180 degree view, and then toggle off. If you drop yourself into reverse, you've got that backup view there as well. And then you can also zoom in if you wanted to. Straightforward. Now, one thing, so you've only got like a tiny little one for your max windshield defroster, but all of the climate control settings are baked right into the screen for the Edge. So you could adjust, there's dual zone climate control inside of the Titanium, the ST, and a few other models. This is nice. You've got the option for heated and ventilated first row seats. So really straightforward there. You've got it for the driver and for the passenger side. Solid. And then you've also got your heated steering wheel button there. From there, you've got this button to have it go to your windshield face feet, some sort of combination, turn on your heated steering wheel that way instead. Now, I know some people aren't crazy about not having the physical climate control settings anymore, but one nice thing is that using the voice command prompt, you'd be able to do things like change songs, radio stations, navigate using your voice, but you'd also got the flexibility of changing the climate using your voice instead. It takes a little bit of getting used to, but like I said, if you want to walk through on the screen, you'll find it in the description. You've got a few different buttons in order to move between media, a few USB power points, and then a wireless phone charger. So if you've got a cell phone that supports wireless charging, it is available there as an option. And then in the screen, when you've got a phone charging, it's going to let you know that there is a phone there as well. I've got a little phone holder, a few cup holders there that do feature ambient light. So if you have your lights on, yeah, you can just kind of barely make it out there. There you are. So you don't have the option for multicolor. It's strictly going to be this one ambient light choice that's available. But it's nice. You've got your rotary dial shifter, so park, reverse, neutral, drive. You can drop it into a sport mode, which gives you an infinitely sportier performance. Now inside of so it's the SE, the SEL, the ST line, and the titanium. It's an 8-speed automatic transmission, but inside of the ST specifically, it's a 7-speed instead. So you can really play with those paddle shifters and have some fun. It's an electronic parking brake, auto start stop, which is going to kill power to the engine if you come to a stop for an extended period of time. This is a button for park assist. So whether or not you have park assist is going to depend on which model of the vehicle that you're in. So this thing has the titanium elite package, which is why the park assist system is there. And then this one is your reverse parking sensor. So the beeping that you get as you back up or get closer to an obstacle, you could toggle it off if you want to. There's a little storage compartment there along the outside there. So this is non-locked, but armrest there has a nice amount of storage space. Shooting out to the side, it's this nice kind of highlight along the passenger side, which looks solid. Glove box, which is fully lockable along the passenger side there. You can see there's a little 12-volt power point as well. You can also kind of make it out. There's a little cubby that you can see right through. So a tiny little bit of extra storage there. Shooting up overhead, this thing has the auto-dimming rear view mirror. Nice feel to it. It's solid. And then all of your cabin control lights and then shade controls and things like that for the panoramic sunroof. So single button press is going to open it up the full way. Which is nice. And then after that sunroof's open, you can push this button in order to be able to vent it out, or push in order to fully open the roof instead. So that's as far open as it's going to go with the first press. You can press again in order to have it go that last little bit. That's really nice. And then you can push there in order to close. Well, let's close that shade as well. From there you've got a few lights, sunglasses holder, off to the side, garage door opener, and then there's a little receipt ticket holder, vanity mirror with lights built in, and this thing's extending out, blocking most of the sun, like a tiny little bit on the edge there, but it's pretty good overall. Only other thing to point out, a little assist handle, and that's the same for the driver, passenger side, and the first and the second row. So setting the seat up the way that I would typically drive, there you go, that's good. And with the seat set up this way inside of the second row, I've got a great amount of foot space, great amount of knee space, and up overhead is like a teeny bit tight, like an inch and a half maybe of head space. But one really cool thing about the second row seats inside of the edge is that, they're locked in place, which is unfortunate, but along the side, so the lever that we would use in order to be able to fold the seat forwards or backwards, you can also lift. If you wanted to give yourself a really nice recline, and like with that seat recline, like 5+ inches of headspace. So if you've got taller people that need to sit inside of the second row of the edge, you can do it. Just make sure that you recline the seats in order to ride in comfort and style. Because the second row seats inside of this thing, they are actually comfortable, which is good. Like even shifting into the middle seat, like this is one that I typically wouldn't want to sit in, but I mean, the way the foot setup is, it's really nice. There are anchor points and tether points though. So if you've got front facing, rear facing child seats, they will fit. You can just kind of stick the child seat inside of the middle seat if you needed to. Inside of this middle seat, you're going to find a few cup holders there built in, which is great. And other than that, there's not a ton of stuff. Like there are pockets behind the first row seat on the driver and the passenger side. You will find the option for heated second row seats. Strictly going to be for the outboard. So the middle seat is never heated inside of this thing whatsoever, but the driver passenger side heated as an option. No ventilated though, which I think that's one thing that Ford's missed out on the Edge, in so many iterations, is they've never had ventilated second row. It's a useful feature to have. So I think that if they continue on with the Edge in the future, it's definitely something that should be added on. Now you're going to find a little storage tray 2 USB power points or USB Type-Cs, and then there's also a 150 watt wall outlet back there too. I did mention this one has the thermoplastic rubber trays right from the factory, so it's just nice to be able to pull them off and spray them down. If you don't get the factory option, you could always look at doing an aftermarket through WeatherTech instead. Tons of options that are available there. But only other thing to point out overhead is that both sides, the driver passenger side, have a little handle with a hook and a little light. And like I said, same on the passenger side there too. But this thing, it has the 2-liter turbocharged engine. So let's take it out for a spin and have a little bit of fun. If power is your thing, the ST is definitely the vehicle that you want to look at. Like I said, this is still pretty solid all at the same time. Ooh. Power when you need it. Like, you'll definitely notice though, like if you ever take the Edge out for a test drive, if you're kind of like unsure, do you look at the Edge Titanium, the Edge ST, drive them back to back. 100% you will absolutely notice the difference, and chances are good if you crave power, you're going to prefer the Edge ST anyways. But if you want an ST specific walkthrough video, you'll find that down in the description of this video. I love the lane centering system inside of this thing. It is really cool. It's like I've got the lane centering system turned on, and like I've got my hand on the steering wheel, but I'm not turning. Like around the bends that we just went through, the steering wheel was literally turning for me. And that's one of the beautiful parts about this system. It's not Ford's Blue Cruise. That's one thing that the Edge doesn't have, is the Blue Cruise system, so the full hands-free driving. The Explorer doesn't have it. The Escape doesn't have it. You're going to find it in, I think it's the Expedition Platinum, and then some versions of the F-150. But I can see next generation Ford vehicles having that across the board, but chances are good it's going to be a subscription service, like what's happening with the Edge for 2024 for the navigation. And that's one thing I'm like, why Ford? Well, I know why they did it. It's subscription recurring revenue. Unfortunate, but you can still connect through iPhones if you wanted to use Google Maps, Apple Maps, or Waze through Apple CarPlay, or you can use Google Maps through Android Auto if you're connected through your Android device. That's an option. And that was everything you needed to know about the 2024 Ford Edge. Hope to learn a thing or two. As I mentioned, you can find a build link for this specific one with links to Ford.com and .ca website down in the description of the video, along with the contact details for Formula Ford, who were nice enough to lend this thing to me through the afternoon to shoot the video for you guys. But if you have any questions, drop down in the comment section below and let me know. Share your thoughts. Like, what do you think's happening with the future of the Edge? Do you think Ford's discontinuing it, or could you see that Edge L model coming from overseas? Let me know what you think. But if you found this one useful, thumbs up, subscribe to the channel if you haven't already, and until I see you next time, take care.